what's up everyone, I'm Jay and it's results day today, which means most of you guys will be getting your results. If you got your results and you smashed it, then congratulations, you guys deserve it. But this video is not for you guys. It's for those of you guys who fell maybe a little bit short of your target or perhaps didn't get the grades that you felt that you deserved. So if this is the case, then continue watching this video because this video will definitely help you if you feel a little bit down or feel a little bit depressed about yourself. But most importantly, it will help you guys figure out what to do next. Hopefully figure out, what steps to take to ensure that you don't end up in this position again next year. In this video, I'll be showing some of the tips and tricks that I used when I got really poor results at AS, which then helped me to get better results at A2 and then to get me into the university that I wanted. So just a quick background story, I got C and 3Ds at AS, which was in biology, chemistry, maths and physics. And I worked really hard over the course of the exam period, and to get those grades, it was very, very disappointing. I remember still walking into that building and knowing that I should have got like straight A's, but I got C and 3Ds. So it was definitely disappointing, especially at AS, just because it's an easier year, and it definitely made me feel really, really bad about myself. There was times where I really wanted to sort of self-harm, and it sounds stupid now, just because there were grades. It was a really dark moment for me, a dark period of time. And some of you might be going through that, and hopefully this video will help you overcome that. There was a lot of thoughts and feelings that were just running through my mind. I was doing an internship at the time with GSK, and I remember walking into the building, into the research lab, and just sitting down on my computer crunching numbers, and thoughts flying around my head like, do I really deserve this, or did I do like some sort of injustice on the person that I outcompeted for this spot to be in this position, who would have perhaps got better grades than me. It was just this thing like, do I deserve to be here? I was working at the very top of like pharmaceutical science, and to be given the opportunity and then to do really poorly at such an easy thing. Now I wish there was somebody that was there for me, but I really wish I could talk to someone who went through the same sort of phase as me, but there wasn't anyone. I used to go on TSI and look up these comeback stories, and just sort of, they would help me feel better about myself temporarily, but it wasn't doing anything constructive. At the end of the day, it didn't help me in any sort of way. So eventually I did learn to pick myself up, and you will too, maybe in a short period of time, and with a lot less pain. So fast forward to next year, I managed to get 3 grades above in chemistry, 2 grades above in biology, and 2 grades above in maths. And not only that, I managed to get 2 unconditional offers and 3 chemical engineering places. So hopefully after watching this video, you too will be able to sort of improve your grades. It's definitely possible, and I'm here to tell you guys that don't feel down about yourself just because you got these grades at AS, because it's definitely possible to improve. It's just an exam at the end of the day. Don't sort of take it too personally. So anyway, so these are the 4 steps which I sort of utilized to help myself feel better and pick myself up. The very first thing to do is to accept your failure. Now it can be really challenging, especially when you are in a pretty low place, because your self-defense sort of kicks in, your ego kicks in, and sort of tries to reject that you didn't fail. It tries to blame other external factors. Easiest way to do this is to celebrate your failure. Now I personally went to Pizza Hut, got a couple of my friends, and we just celebrated. So we all just kind of had fun and sort of celebrated our grades. And it's definitely important to do that. It helps you to come to terms with what has just happened, and more importantly, it helps you figure out that it's not that bad. It's not that bad that you got these grades, because there's going to be somebody in a worse position than you. Not even the grades. There's going to be someone who perhaps lost their leg or lost their arm and is feeling worse than you, and you have no excuse, because you still have all your limbs, you still have all your organs and stuff. Somebody's probably just lost their family member, and you're complaining about these bunch of grades. It helps you just sort of put things into perspective. Definitely do that. I know it sounds kind of stupid that you're celebrating your failure, but trust me, if you do it, it will help, and it will definitely help you to come to terms with what has happened. Now, alternatively, if you don't want to, be a fat shit like me and go and eat, what you can do is go do things that you enjoy. So if you like to play football with your friends, just go out and play football, or go for a swim if you like swimming. Go to the gym, just take out all the anger, because your head will be clearer after you come back. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is to identify your mistakes. Now, I know it's easy to blame external factors like, your teachers, your school, and, other things, but it's really important that you sort of identify the mistakes within yourself. For example, when I sort of got these grades, I started blaming my teachers for the lack of consistency in teaching, having supplies all the time. And, I started blaming my school as well, because if I'm looking back at my time, they weren't really, very adapted to the new spec. They weren't sort of used to it, and they had no idea what they were doing. Ultimately, it was you who got yourself into this position. There's people who sort of taught themselves chemistry, taught themselves biology, and got A's. It's definitely possible to do that, again, to a certain extent. So you definitely have flaws, so it's definitely important that you identify those so you don't end up in this position again. So long story short, I figured out what was wrong with me, so the mistakes that I made. So the very first thing was ego, and this is really something that is bad to have, just because it stops you from learning, stops you from making progress. Now, the next thing I had wrong with me, or the mistake I made, was I didn't do a lot of past papers. Now, I thought to myself, I'm really good at memorizing. Why do I need to do all these past papers? Because at GCSE, I essentially relied heavily on my memory. So I sort of applied that same logic to A-level. Definitely did not pay off. So that was my second flaw. As well as that, I was doing things like, I was going out too much. I wasn't organized. And most importantly, the last thing that was wrong with me, I wasn't, physically fit, and I wasn't in a good mental state at the time. It can be really hard to sort of look at all the flaws that you have, but it's definitely important that you do so, because, you can't improve something without accepting there's flaws in it. Now, the third thing that you need to do is to identify your strengths, to identify what went well. Now, this is really important that you do this, because you definitely don't want to be sort of taking things out that has been working well. Why would you fix something that is already working well? Now, the only thing that I would suggest is, if it can be improved, then definitely improve it. But if it's worked or has been working well, then don't, change it. It can be as simple as having a good mental health at the time, or, learning all the content really well, or being able to cover all the content in time. These are the things that you should be praising yourself for. And you definitely don't want to be changing these as you go, if you do progress onto A2, which we will get into in a bit. So the fourth and the last step is to take appropriate steps to ensure that you don't end up in the same position again. You need to make sure that you take the steps which are best suited for you and only for you. So don't take these steps just because your friends are taking them, or that you feel like there's a certain burden, or like somebody else is forcing you to take these steps. Because at the end of the day, no one will be responsible for your up if you do manage to up again, other than yourself. Like, I'm putting this as straight as I possibly can with you guys. So the very first thing I would do would be to speak with my teachers. Now, your teacher is somebody who knows you really, really well. So if you can speak with them, then you should definitely try to speak with them, just because they will be they'll be very familiar with your way of learning, how you progress throughout the year. They will know if you knew the content really well. They'll know your weaknesses probably better than what you think you know about yourself. So it's definitely important to speak with them. Now, so the only time I wouldn't speak to my teachers would be if they are an absolute piece of shit. So I know a couple of teachers who were, just completely negative with me. So I didn't even bother going to them. And even if you do want to speak to that teacher, then definitely go speak with them. You never know, they might give you a good advice, and it definitely doesn't hurt to listen to someone. And advice is advice. It's your choice if you want to take it on. Right, after speaking with teachers, you probably would have heard a number of things, like maybe you didn't understand the content really well, maybe you didn't do enough past papers, maybe you weren't focused enough, or maybe you didn't enjoy your subject. Now, I'll touch into all of these things briefly. So for example, if you didn't understand the content really well, is it really worth going into a second year of A-level having a poor foundation of AS? I don't think it is. I personally would resit the year, gain a firm foundation and then go on to A2, so retaking would be a good option at this point. But if you knew the content really well, but you didn't do enough past papers, or perhaps your exam technique was poor, then perhaps it would be worth going into A2, simply because you can concentrate on doing a lot more past papers. All you have to do is just do a lot of past papers, cross-check them with the mark scheme, ensure that you're using the correct terminologies and so on and so forth. You know what kind of questions examiners are asking. This is something that can be done at A2. You don't have to retake a year for that. But on the other hand, like I said, if you don't know the content really well, a lot of the content which is taught at A2 is built upon what they teach you at AS. So you essentially will be building a high-rise building with a poor foundation. If it's exposed to a lot of stress, it will fall just because of that poor foundation. I know a lot of people who managed to go into A2 with a poor foundation, and not a lot of them actually came out in a good state, because a lot of people sort of underestimate how much work has to go into relearning AS content on top of your A2. So lastly, like I said, one of the main themes that would come up would be, you know, not loving your subject enough. If you don't love your subject enough, I would say drop it. Don't even think twice about it, just because a lot of the time, if you don't love something from the very beginning, you won't love it in due course. Like, that's just how it works. Like, you're not focused at the start, and then even if you do start focusing towards the end, your foundation, like I said, would be weak at the start. So there's no point trying to learn something, you know, half-heartedly. So just drop it. I personally like hated physics, and I regret not dropping it at the start of the year. I sort of just like, you know, I was like, maybe I'll love it eventually, but you know, it never happened. So if you can, you know, don't take it on to A2. You have a poor foundation of your AS knowledge, and then for you to take a subject that you don't love into A2 is just like shooting yourself in the foot. Whilst you're also doing this, it's also important to consider your potential uni course that you want to apply to. If you're applying for something like medicine, dentistry, or a similar STEM course, then retaking should be considered carefully. Now, simply because a lot of universities, especially in medicine and dentistry, don't like people retaking or taking a third year. They just don't like that, and you'll be putting yourself at a massive disadvantage if you do manage to retake a year for no reason, just because a lot of the universities will sort of you know, have their doors closed for you. With that said, if you're taking courses like medicine, dentistry, and have to retake the year, then it's definitely possible. Don't feel like it will be impossible. There's people like Manisha on YouTube who have done a retake of their A2s. There's also people who have done, you know, retakes and have got into medicine. It's definitely possible. Don't think it's impossible. There's a lot of success stories on TSR who will actually explain to you guys how you should apply. Now, I know your university choices will be limited, but it's definitely possible. And you know, whilst it's important to consider your potential uni course, it's also important that you don't sort of let this distract you from the main point. The main point is to get awesome grades. So don't let, you know, the hardship of applying to medicine or dentistry stop you from making the right decision, you know, whether that's retaking the year or moving on to A2. So, like I said before, Manisha has taken 3 years to complete her A-levels and has got university offers for medicine. I will leave her channel down below. As well as that, I'll also leave Ali Abidal's video. I believe that's how you say his name. I'm sorry if I butchered it, but basically he's also uploaded a video recently explaining how his friend reapplied to medicine. So if you are doing medicine or dentistry, then definitely check out those two links down below, and I'm sure you'll be fine even if you do have to retake. Right, so I would also suggest you guys don't think too much about the social aspects of these things. Now, I know it can be really hard if you have to retake a year and your friends move on to A2 or vice versa, right? But at the end of the day, your friends are not going to be paying for your bills if you end up on the street. So do what's right for you. Don't think of anybody else. Don't think of anybody else's opinion. Don't think about what your, you know, mom's friend would think if you retake a year, or what your, you know, parents would think if you retake a year, or what your friends would be thinking about you if you retake a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't think of anybody but yourself. At the end of the day, you will hate yourself if you go into A2 and, you know, with a poor knowledge of AS and then flop again. You'll be wasting another year, you'll be wasting another chance. Don't do that, please. For the love of God, don't listen to anybody else but yourself. Don't make a decision based on somebody else's opinion purely. If you don't take anything else, just definitely take this advice. And that is to not listen to your friends or anybody that, you know, just trying to judge you for, you know, making a certain decision in life. And as harsh as it sounds, you probably won't see the people that you know at AS or A2 again in your life. You probably only know a handful of people. I personally only know like 3 or 4 people that I'm still in contact with from sixth form, right? Like, you occasionally see people around, you know, if you go back home, but you know, you're not going to be in contact with them, so don't care what they think. And you know, it's important to remember that if your friends are your friends, they will still be in contact with you regardless of whether you retake a year or move on. So essentially all I'm saying is, you know, be selfish and make the decision for yourself, because you're the only one who's got your own back. So this brings us to the end of the video. Now, I tried my best to outline, you know, sort of the mindset that I had when I was going through these times, and you know, sort of help you guys. But it's also important that you consider professional help. Now, it's definitely important that you speak to your teachers, your UCAS advisors, your head of years to help you figure out your next step. But it's also important to remember that their opinions are their opinions, and you know, although it might be professional advice, they don't know you that well. So even if they suggest that, you know, perhaps retake a year, but you feel like you know the exam content really well and that you have the balls to actually, you know, work really hard, then definitely don't consider their opinion too much, and you know, just go ahead and go on to A2, because at the end of the day, you know yourself best. So you do what you feel like is the best thing for yourself. As well as that, if you guys are going through this phase and you want some advice or you want someone to speak to, then my social links will be on the screen right now. Feel free to message me on these 2 platforms. I will try my best to reply to as many of you guys as possible. And yeah, as well as that, leave comments down below. If I'll be in the comment section for a couple of days to hopefully help you guys out if you guys are, going through this tough time. Anyways guys, I'll leave you guys with a very strong quote which I found when I was going through this tough phase, which helped me quite a lot. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. Anyways guys, this was Jay, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace out. I also had Vaseline in my hand just because my lips were going dry.